Ever wanted to build a city completely made out of confectionery? I know I have. I remember when I was a kid, I used to dream about what the world would be like if it was completely made of chocolate. Maybe it was raining hundreds and thousands. Maybe there were rivers and waterfalls of Nutella and gelato right at your fingertips. In this video, we're going to be talking about a fantastically sweet-tastic game that you can literally lick with your tongue. Actually, no, that would be dangerous. It's a game that will tantalize the taste buds and take you to a place called Sweetlands. Hi, my name's Danny. I'm an avid modern board gamer from Australia who loves sharing my passion for this hobby with you, my friends and family. Come with me and you'll see a world of pure Sweetlandia. A game of Sweetlands actually is very easy to follow, despite its very overwhelming, eclectic, colourful appearance. In fact, this is a game that spans over 5 rounds and everything clicks together, and the recipe for following the rounds is super simple. All you're going to do at the beginning of the round is move the round marker forward. You're going to collect income based on your markers on your income track on your player board, and you're going to be placing little cubes that have a value of 10, 5 and 1 into the spaces, and that kind of forms your currency and resources that you can spend throughout the round. If you've played games like Terraforming Mars, this is something that's quite similar to that. You're then going to draw some citizen cards from the deck, and there's a variety of different cards that you'll acquire, and these citizen cards also become part of your resources as well. What you're then going to do is on your turn, you'll place these orange discs into these action spaces, paying the cost based on the number of discs there. So if you're placing the first disc, you'll spend or discard 1 citizen card. If yours is the second disc, you'll discard 2. If yours is the third disc, you'll discard 3. Once you've discarded your cards, you can then follow the actions on the space where you've placed your orange disc and resolve it. The other thing you can do is also play these citizenship cards by paying the cost that's at the top to get the effect, and to also sometimes be able to trigger them by tucking them under your player board, which gives you like a cascading effect throughout the game. Once you've kind of done all the actions that you can do, you then pass, and if there's any citizen cards that you've got in your tableau with passing abilities, you'll then be able to trigger them, get those bonuses, and then save them up for the next round. And so that's basically the flow of the game. You'll kind of do that 5 times, and then you'll hopefully get this grandiose, beautiful, confectionary city right in front of you by the end of the game that you can admire and visit again and again in your imagination. I'm looking kind of squashed here at the top of the screen, and that's because this game is incredibly large. In fact, what you see here is a setup for a 2-player game only. I think I'm going to need a bigger table if I want to play 3 or 4 players. This prosperity track is what hinges and kind of maneuvers a lot of the points that you get throughout the game. In fact, each player will have a little marker that will start at the 0 section of each of the 6 tracks. You'll also notice that each of the pairs of tracks are colored. You've got this orange section, this green section, and this gray section. Each of the different tracks scores for particular features that you would have built in your city by the end of the game. It might be roads, it could be housing chocolate bunnies in your city, it could be the number of tuck cards, your position on the industrial track, or even the number of tiles or buildings you have placed out. The further up your little dial goes up each of these tracks, the higher the value of the scoring that you'll get for each of the 6 features. So if I have a marker here at the beginning, if I leave this marker here for the entire game, I'll probably get 0 for each of the buildings I place out. But if I ended up here, I'll get 2 points per building that I have out. And so this prosperity track kind of makes the value of these 6 features easily scored if you go further and further up them. And not only that, you'll actually get bonuses as you move up those tracks. The next section of the main player board is where you're going to be moving the round marker across the 5 rounds. It's going to reveal particular actions that you can take and players are going to be opting to use their use discs which come from a common pool to activate some conversion rates that helps you to acquire the resources that you need. It could be converting 4 wheat to bake 2 bread, or it could be converting 4 wheat to place a chocolate rabbit in a building that you've already established. These conversion rates are going to help you achieve those goals of constructing what you need on your main map. You've even got a set of free actions, which you'll actually do quite a lot because you'll always try and find different little nooks and crannies and avenues for twisting the game in your favor to convert things and convert that extra cash into extra bonuses, which will then cascade into other things you can add to your city. Now, this little grid of tiles that you can acquire throughout the game are little one-shot bonus tiles where when you get the tiles, you can either get the effects that is listed on them, you'll have end of round scoring effects, and tiles that you can flip over to trigger their bonus action or ability. So this particular tile, once per round, if you flip it over, you get a diamond, which is very, very valuable for ascending the prosperity track and also doing lots of things on your main player board area. I really want to draw your attention to your player board, which kind of looks like the busiest part of the table, but actually it's the most functional, most interesting part of the game, apart from the game map, which I'll get to next. What I really like about the player boards is that you can track your production value of each of your resources by moving these dials around. You can even store your cubes neatly here, and you've got all your buildings, including coffee shops, the cheese houses, the cream puff houses, and the brownie factories, which you'll basically pay wood and stone to remove off your board and place in your city. And as you do that, you'll gain particular bonuses, and each column kind of has its interesting focus. The brownie buildings kind of gives you a lot of diamonds. Then you've got the cheese buildings that kind of help you to build bridges. And if you can uncover an entire column, you'll actually get a bonus scoring method at the end of the game. So if you uncover all the cheese houses, you will actually get 2 points for every chocolate bunny you have in your city at the end of the game. You've even got these coffee houses that when you pull them off, you'll be able to trigger different icons of previously tucked citizen cards that you'll have in each column. And you'll notice this section has the gray, this section is green, and this section is orange. And so there's 3 kind of different columns of bonuses and economies that you can kind of have going at different times throughout the game. You've even got this asymmetric player character, and each player actually has this ice cream clock tower that when they've satisfied the conditions on their character, they'll be able to place that clock tower out in their city and then have an ongoing specific bonus effect that only applies to that character. I want to really talk about this industrial track that's at the top of the board. It's basically a track where at the beginning of the game you can move this carriage along the track, triggering different effects. When you move the horse carriage around, you'll need to remove these milk laboratory buildings, place them on your map in order to be able to allow your carriage to go past them. This orange carriage will trigger all the orange tile effects here on this track, and then at a certain point in the game, you'll reach this locomotive space, which will unlock the locomotive, which will then allow the locomotive to trigger all the green spaces on the track. You kind of can imagine this as like your industrial progression or the improvement of transport and connections around your city. And so as you're pulling off these research milk labs, you'll be able to access more and more bonuses that you can kind of push up throughout the game. And this industrial track connects with the bottom track of this prosperity track that also gives you very powerful point conversion multipliers at the end if you progress really, really far along it. You've always even got this food track that as you move this marker up, it unlocks little chocolate rabbits that can be released and be placed in buildings that are already established on your player board. The player map board is one place in your game where you're going to see your city grow. You'll notice that the terrain on your board comprises of a orange region which connects to the orange tracks, the green forest region which connects to the green track, and the grey mining region which connects with the grey tracks. The reason why these colors appear on your board is that when you place tiles on them, if you build roads that kind of emanate from these city areas, you'll be able to flip the tiles and you can either gain a movement up one of your prosperity tracks corresponding to the colored region, or you can increase production of a resource that matches this color region. So if you flip over a green forest region, you can increase your timber production. Here you can increase your stone production, and here you can increase your wheat production. So there's like a dual purpose to placing out the terrain tiles, flipping them and triggering to help, I guess, improve your value on your tracks. So what you're going to be trying to do is, if you've ever played a game called Castles of Burgandy, you basically start from the city centers and then you emanate your way out by placing little terrain tiles that cover the spaces. As you place the terrain tiles, you'll then be able to build roads along the edges. And what you're trying to do is that as you build roads, you'll flip the tiles over, get those bonuses that I just mentioned, and you'll be able to then pay for buildings that can fit onto those tiles. And the aim here is to create diverse pockets of buildings, almost like mini cities. In this game, you get rewarded for having different bubble cities that appear on your map. So cities count if you have 3 buildings of a different type each. You kind of want space in between. I kind of describe this as more like a decentralized city model where you have like multiple city centers that are kind of established throughout your map. In addition to that, you've got these 4 ports or harbors that you're trying to connect to as well. Because if you don't connect to all the harbors throughout the game, you'll actually lose a lot of points. So connecting to the 4 harbors, building these little structured cities helps you to score accumulative points throughout the game. And if you can create these little pockets, you'll create a really balanced city overall. One of the biggest utilities that you can use in the game are these citizenship cards. Their multifunctionality means that you can use these to kind of shift and tweak your economic engine into particular avenues. If you want, citizens that kind of help you to strengthen your industry track, then you'll pick citizen cards like this and also tuck these under the gray column. You've got these specializations in different areas where each of the cards has particular tags and particular icons. So this one has a cake card, which kind of symbolizes that's the product you make. What also happens with these cards is that you can use them for their one-off abilities, which kind of gives you like a temporary bonus and temporary ability, but then you can also invest long-term in their sweet production to get ongoing benefits. So here you're making fruit tarts and getting coins every time you trigger the gray column. So I do want to talk about Sweetlands as a Eurogame. Before you embark on this game, it's important to know that Sweetlands comes in a ginormous box. I think it might be the biggest YouTuber Koye published game that they've actually made. So be prepared for like a 3 to 4 hour playtime and lots of moving pieces and things to set up and things to think about on your turn. The crunch in the game is definitely there, and it comes in thick and fast and really hard as well. You always feel like you have so many different options that you kind of pick from throughout the game. And so this game kind of has that motherboard effect where you kind of have this smorgasbord of choice, and depending on which dials you want to turn and tune and like kind of anchor into, you can then kind of explore different strategies each time you play. It does take up a lot of space, so be prepared to have it set up and then play it a few times before packing it away, because it does have quite a long setup time. But if you get everyone involved, it can kind of reduce that a little. Now, one thing I really want to talk about is the fact that the game kind of has a lot of elements from other popular Euro games. You've got the resource mechanism from Terraforming Mars. You've kind of got a plethora of different cards, which kind of is reminiscent of Ark Nova, where you've got the tags on the cards and using the cards in different ways for conversions. And then you've also got this map board, which kind of is really a throwback to Castles of Burgandy, where you're covering it with terrain tiles and then you're expanding and then building things on there. And so what I think is really unique to Sweetlands is this idea that you're building this economic engine which links to this very strong prosperity track. This prosperity track is literally the thing that anchors all of the threads in this sugar factory in order to make the fairy floss and the taste of the fairy floss at the end of the game. And so you really want to kind of connect everything together, and being able to establish these connections and plugging in to different strategies, you can really see how you can do well in this game. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the thematic nature of a Euro. I'm someone who really gravitates to an interesting theme, and if the mechanisms in the game reflect that theme, that's something that will make me a kind of connect or have a relationship with the game a lot more than one where it feels more abstract. I feel like Sweetlands does feel like an incredibly thematic Euro. All of the dressings of the game really match with what you're aiming to do. You're building the roads, which look like little telephones by the way, but also you're building all these wonderful buildings, and the production value really does so much to accentuate how easy it is to grasp this world. And when you just take a step back and you see your board, it definitely has a very puzzly feel to it. The thing that I feel detaches you away from the theme is the multitude of different tracks. There are so many tracks, and sometimes I think you can have too many tracks in a game. You've got the 6 tracks on the prosperity board, and then you've got the victory point track, and there's 3 markers that go around. Then you've got all the different tracks where you uncover all your buildings. Oh, there's so many tracks that I don't even know. There's the food track. I forgot about the food track. And then the rabbit track and the industry track. And so sometimes you can have too many tracks. And I feel like this game probably has 6 too many tracks. I feel like if it kind of paired the tracks a little bit back a bit, it would kind of be able to lean into the theme a little bit more. And so for me, I think that's my kind of minor negative about the game. In terms of the positive, this game is combo-tastic, and with a lot of Euros, and you know, I'm a fan of point salady Euros. This game is point salad in spades. So if you're someone who likes your Euros to be really focused on one particular mechanism, this game is probably not it for you. This is a game where you get points from everywhere. And in fact, you almost feel like a kid in a candy shop, and you can just kind of go through and you can kind of go, oh my gosh, I want that jelly snake, and I've found the gummy bears. So you're basically collecting all of these different ways to kind of do the things that you want to do, and you're trying to use those conversion factors to create this economy that helps you to build your city. Kind of reminded me of that episode of The Simpsons where Homer has this fever dream of being in like a candy land, and he's kind of frolicking around, and he picks up a rabbit, it's a chocolate rabbit, and he bites into it and it's raining like chocolate chips. This game kind of has that same feeling. So on the other hand, it also feels overwhelming when you first set it up. It's almost like when you watch that scene where all the parents with their kids go into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for the first time, that very big room, they kind of feel this overwhelming sensation of like, oh my goodness, there's so much color. This game definitely feels like that when you first look at it. And so Sweetlands is a Euro game that has an incredible puzzly effect to it. It definitely is a game that has you thinking about multiple buttons that you want to push, but also trying to get those buttons to link together. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about Sweetlands is that there's multiple steps to get to that end goal. It's like, okay, I want to be able to build 3 clusters of different cities on my map. How am I going to strategically and geographically do that? Well, I need to expand into particular terrains, I need to flip those, I need to build the roads, and then the roads are going to allow me to build the buildings, and then I'm going to unlock the buildings by using particular resources, and I'm going to cluster those buildings together. And then once I've clustered those buildings, I'm going to pull off the rabbits. I've got to be able to ascend the food track in order to release some of those chocolate rabbits, which will then go into those buildings. And then you'll be able to go up the prosperity track, and the more you go up the prosperity track for the buildings, the roads, and the chocolate rabbits, you'll be able to maximize the points and ultimately win the game. And so if what I've just rabbled off sounds like your kind of jam and your kind of vibe, and you just want a scones and a tea towel as you play this game, then you are gonna love this game. But if that sounds like it's overwhelming and too much for you, then you probably want to try this game before you get it. And you know, for me, as I've kind of become more experienced with more Euro games, I kind of see a lot of crossovers between them. And so games like this kind of excite me actually, because I'm like, oh my goodness, I get to push this button and this will cause a cascading effect, and that if I tuck this in and create this engine, I feel like this is a really great two-player game, and if you just want a two-player game that you can play that has a lot of meat and a lot of crunch to it, then this definitely will fulfill that void. If you're just someone who wants to delight in, a game about sweets, then this is your game. But if this looks like too many pieces to even, if you basically get this game and your partner is basically going to run for the hills, then you probably want to start with something a little bit small and easier before you lead into Sweetlands. I hope you really enjoyed my overview of Sweetlands, and I really love YouTuber Koya's games, in particular Aqua Garden. It's one of my favorite games, mainly because of the aquatic theme, but it's got this interesting rondel. So if you haven't checked out that game, definitely check it out. But yeah, if you really found this video super helpful, super enjoyable, wholesome, please consider liking my channel or heading over to my Patreon page and buying me a coffee a month. Doesn't cost very much, but helps me and this channel to be able to grow and bring you more cool content like this. Thank you once again for joining me for another Board Game Sanctuary video. If you really like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video like all of your game experiences, and I hope to see you again soon. This is Danny signing out. See you later.